You never forget the moment your world falls apart. Mine happened the night before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My name is Marcus. I'm 32, run my own architecture firm in downtown Chicago, and I've always been the guy who plans everything to the last detail. Blueprints, schedules, budgets. I control chaos for a living. But no spreadsheet could have predicted what happened that night. I met Elena 3 years ago at a charity gala. She was elegance in motion public relations specialist, witty, passionate, sharp-tongued in a way that made people either love her or walk away bruised. I loved her. I loved her the way you only love once when you believe in forever, not in caution. We dated, moved in together, and after a year I proposed under the lights of the Navy Pier with fireworks in the sky. She said yes, with tears in her eyes and both arms around my neck like she'd never let go. We were perfect, or at least I thought we were. The night before the wedding, my groomsmen and I had finished dinner at a quiet steakhouse near the hotel, where all the guests were staying. I was sober, clear-headed, ready. I remember looking down at my cufflinks engraved with our initials and thinking, tomorrow I become a husband. Then I got the text. It was short, 8 words. I can't do this. I'm so sorry, Elena. At first, I thought it was a joke, maybe pre-wedding nerves, a prank. But then I called her voicemail again. Voicemail. Within an hour, her maid of honor confirmed that Elena had checked out of the bridal suite and vanished. No note, no explanation. Just gone, bags packed, dress untouched, ring left in a box on the nightstand like some abandoned relic. I remember standing in the hotel lobby, surrounded by friends and family who didn't know what to say to me. Their faces blurred as I stared out the glass doors at the streetlights flickering. All I could think was, why now? Shock numbed the pain at first, but then came the questions. Was there someone else? Was it me? Had I missed the signs? And after that came the anger. How do you walk away from someone without a word, without facing them, without the decency to explain why you're detonating the life you built together? I didn't cry that night. I couldn't. The betrayal was too big to feel all at once. It just sat in my chest like a cinder block, and that's how I went to bed on the night before my wedding, alone, humiliated, and with a void where my future used to be. But what I didn't know then was that I'd see her again, and the next time she came back, it wasn't for love, it was for a job, a desk, a paycheck. Or she wanted to be my secretary. The days after the wedding, that wasn't felt like I was living someone else's life. I didn't cancel the venue, my brother did. I didn't return the tux, I left it in a pile on my apartment floor like some dead version of me was still inside it. The flowers were donated. The catering was charged in full. The honeymoon tickets to Santorini wasted. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I ghosted my friends, ignored my mother's concerned texts, and buried myself in work. It was easier to stare at blueprints than to think about how close I came to building a life with someone who apparently had no intention of seeing it. Through the press release I had drafted for our firm announcing my newlywed break sat in my inbox, mocking me. I threw myself into 12-hour days, numbing the pain with deadlines and coffee. Clients kept telling me I looked tired. My junior associates started asking if I was okay. I wasn't, but I didn't say that. Instead, I smiled and told them I was just focused. Then came the first odd thing. A week after the not wedding, I got a call from a mutual friend of ours, Jamie, someone we'd both known since college. She was one of Elena's bridesmaids. Hey, Marcus, she started, cautious like she was stepping into dangerous territory. I didn't want to get involved, but I need to ask. Did you and Elena have a fight the night before? No, I said flatly. She just disappeared. There was silence on the line. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. I only asked because ... I saw her that night, at a rooftop bar in Lincoln Park. She was with someone. Someone, I asked. A guy, she said. Tall, looked older. They were in a booth, close, laughing. I tried to keep my voice even. You sure it was her? I didn't want to believe it, but yeah, it was her. She saw me too, and left before I could say anything. I didn't know what to say. I thanked her and hung up. For the first time in days, I didn't feel hollow. I felt heat, confusion mixed with fury. If it was true, if Elena had been with someone else that night, what had the past year of my life even meant? Still, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Jamie might have seen someone who looked like Elena, or maybe Elena was meeting a friend, blowing off steam before the wedding. But then the second thing happened. I logged into our shared Dropbox folder, the one we used to store documents for our new apartment search, wedding plans and honeymoon bookings. I wasn't even sure why I did it. Maybe part of me hoped there'd be a note, some digital confession. Instead, I found something worse. A new folder recently added, titled Contracts March. I clicked it open. Inside were 2 PDFs. One was a preliminary agreement for a public relations job at a rival architecture firm, Bradley and Holt, one of my biggest competitors in the city. The second was a signed NDA. Both were dated 10 days before the wedding. Elena hadn't just walked out on me. She'd walked right into the arms of my competition. I leaned back in my chair, hands clenched. I remembered how Elena had started canceling meetings with my firm's clients, saying she was overwhelmed with wedding planning. I remembered how she'd gotten quieter whenever I talked about my firm's upcoming expansion. Our clients in the tech district are bid on the city hall restoration project. Had she been feeding them information? Had this entire relationship been one long con? That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay in bed replaying everything, every conversation, every laugh, every kiss, trying to see where the lie began. I wanted to call her, to scream at her, but I didn't, because part of me wasn't sure yet. There was no definitive proof. A file could be nothing. A coincidence. Maybe she'd applied on a whim, hadn't taken the job, hadn't signed anything real. But the silence, the way she ghosted me, the way she disappeared without even a goodbye, that silence was louder than any confession. Still, I told myself to wait, to be sure, to watch, listen, gather what I needed, because if she had used me, if she had betrayed me professionally and personally, I wasn't going to break down. I was going to build something stronger, and I was going to make sure she saw it. The proof came 2 weeks later. I was in the office late again, midnight, maybe later, reviewing proposals for a new civic library project. The city was finally considering our firm over Bradley and Holt for once, and I wasn't about to let that slip. But my mind wasn't on the blueprints, not fully. It never was anymore. I kept thinking about that folder, the NDA, the contract, the timing. And Elena. It didn't make sense how she went from "I can't wait to be your wife" to walking away without even a goodbye, unless something bigger was going on, something deliberate. That's when I decided to stop guessing. I called my firm's IT guy, rich, trusted, quiet, loyal. I told him I needed him to check into something. Unofficially. "Can you trace access logs on the client directory?" I asked. "I need to know who's downloaded what over the last 90 days. He didn't ask why, he just nodded. "Give me a day." When he came back, his face said everything before he opened his mouth. "Elena accessed 3 files that weren't hers," he said, setting down a printout on my desk. "City Hall project, Benson Tech blueprints, and the Finch Trust proposal. She downloaded them using your credentials." I stared at the sheet. Each download timestamp matched a day she'd been working from home, claiming she needed quiet time to finalize flower arrangements or write thank you notes. "She didn't just betray you," Rich said quietly. "She compromised the firm." I leaned back, heart pounding. "Did she send them anywhere?" "She uploaded copies to a personal drive, Gmail address. I tracked the IP. It's real." That was it. No more doubt. No more what ifs. She had stolen my firm's internal documents and sent them out, likely to Bradley and Holt, the firm she'd been negotiating with behind my back. My life didn't just unravel personally. It was violated professionally, too. I could have gone to the board right then, could have filed a lawsuit, had her served, dragged her into court, but I didn't. Not yet. Because I knew Elena. She was careful, always had an angle. If I attacked outright, she'd spin it, make herself the victim, claim she was helping or confused or traumatized by cold feet. And people, especially investors, hate messy public drama. So I decided to wait, watch, and make a move she wouldn't see coming. Hired a private investigator, Jared Pierce, former police, quiet, thorough. I gave him the Dropbox folder, the IP logs, the access records, told him to find out if Bradley and Holt had communicated with her directly while Jared worked. I cleaned house at the firm. Quietly, I restricted internal access, changed passwords, reassigned the City Hall project to a close team I trusted with my life, but I didn't tell anyone what I knew. Outwardly, I pretended to be moving on, taking meetings, laughing again, even posted a few photos at a rooftop event for PR, my firm, shaking hands with city planners. Nothing special, but enough to look stable. Inside, I was building a case, and waiting. The emotional weight didn't vanish overnight. I still woke up sometimes expecting her beside me. Still heard her voice when I walked past the couch where we used to binge Netflix and argue about popcorn flavors. Still felt that knot in my chest when people asked, "So, what happened?" I never answered. Not fully. I just smiled and said, "Life changes fast." Because I knew I wasn't just mourning a relationship, I was surviving a double betrayal then. Jared called. "I've got something," he said. "Bradley and Holt hired a new PR consultant, quiet contract, under the table. 2 weeks before your wedding, name Elena Vargas. Paid through an LLC she registered 6 months ago." He sent me the documents, payment logs, an email chain recovered from a disgruntled assistant who had left their firm last month, and screenshots from a cloud server that showed revisions Elena made to one of my firm's stolen proposals, added out our branding and inserting theirs. She hadn't just taken files, she'd rebranded my ideas, sold them as her own. I sat at my desk in stunned silence, fingers gripping the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. It was all real, all deliberate. She'd used me, professionally and personally, slept beside me while planning to gut my firm from the inside. And now, with the truth laid bare, I felt the emotional paralysis lift. Not completely, but enough. I wasn't broken anymore. I was focused, because now I had the proof, and I had a plan. I began drafting a legal strategy with my counsel, quietly preparing an intellectual property theft claim, documented every file, timestamp, access log, cross-referenced every contract Elena had signed under her LLC. We would strike with precision. No public drama, just facts, signatures, and truth. But before I could serve her, she walked back into my office. 3 weeks after ghosting me before the wedding, after all the lies and silence. She walked in, resume in hand, eyes wide, voice soft, and asked, "Marcus, are you hiring?" She wanted to be my secretary. She stood there like nothing had happened. Alina, hair tied back in a neat ponytail, dressed modestly, black skirt, white blouse, soft smile like some humble intern. In her hand a manila folder and a resume I didn't need to read. I already knew every line of it. I'd watched her build her career. Hell, I'd helped her write the last version of that resume 2 years ago, but this wasn't 2 years ago, and she wasn't the same woman I proposed to. "I heard you're expanding the team," she said, voice just above a whisper. "Ben, going through some changes, and I'd really love the chance to start over with someone I trust." My jaw clenched so hard I could feel my molars grinding, but I didn't let it show. "Not yet." I nodded slowly and gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Have a seat." She smiled, sat, crossed her legs like this was a casual lunch catch-up. "I know it's unexpected, but I've been thinking about everything. About us. I made a mistake walking away. I panicked. I was scared. You didn't deserve what I did, and I know that now. You left the night before our wedding," I said, my voice calm. "Even that's not a mistake, that's a choice." She blinked, it stung, but trying to recover. "I know, and I've regretted it every day since. I want to make things right. Start small. Help out however I can." "You want to be my secretary?" I said flatly. "I want to be useful," she replied, "and if that's where I need to start, I will. I just want to be around you again. I miss you." She stared at me, eyes searching for a flicker of softness, a crack in the armor. Instead, I opened the drawer to my right, pulled out a thick folder and dropped it on the desk with a thud. "What's this?" she asked, frowning. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Proof of everything you've done." Her face barely moved, but I saw it, the flicker in her eyes, the pulse at her neck. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You will," I said. I opened the folder slowly, deliberately. "Let's start here. Access logs. You downloaded proprietary documents from our shared server using my login. Not once, not twice, but 6 times. "Marcus," I raised a hand. "Let me finish." I flipped to the next tab. "Here's a contract you signed with Bradley and Holt 2 weeks before our wedding, quietly, under an LLC you created. You billed them for PR consultation, but what you really did was hand them my firm's internal proposals, complete with customized edits that removed our logo and inserted theirs." Her lips parted, but no words came. I kept going. "Here are payment receipts, timestamps, cloud backup screenshots, and my personal favorite email you sent to one of their partners." The subject line was, and I quote, "City Hall bid use this version instead." I snapped the folder shut. "You didn't just leave me," I said. "You stole from me. You tried to destroy what I built." She swallowed hard. "You don't understand. Bradley offered me something bigger. I was going to tell you. I thought maybe we could both move on." I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands. "You thought you could betray me, disappear, and then come back and work under me like nothing happened." Her voice broke. "I didn't come to hurt you, Marcus. I came because I realized I threw away something real, and now everything else, it's gone." I stared at her, heart pounding but my face unmoved. "Do you know what I've done the last 3 weeks, Alina? I didn't cry. I didn't chase you. I built a case. I talked to lawyers, private investigators. I documented every file you accessed, every move you made. I have enough to file criminal charges for corporate espionage." She shot up from the chair. "You wouldn't." "I would," I said, rising slowly to meet her at eye level. "But I won't, because I want you to live with what you've done. Public trials are messy. My firm doesn't need that. But your reputation, that's already ruined." Her hands trembled. "Please, Marcus, don't do this. I lost everything. The contract, the job. I'm blacklisted now. I came here because I didn't know where else to go. And that's the part you still don't get," I said, coldly. "This isn't a shelter. This is my legacy. And you don't get to be part of it." I picked up her resume and slowly tore it in half. She flinched as if it were her heart ripping down the middle. "I want you out of this building in 60 seconds, I said, "or I'll call security." She stared at me, tears welling, mascara smudging, but I didn't care. Not anymore. She walked out without another word, and I stood at the window, watching her silhouette disappear into the street below. For the first time in weeks I exhaled fully. It was over, and this time she didn't get to vanish on her terms. I ended it. The fallout came fast and quiet. I didn't press charges. I didn't need to. The legal documents stayed in a drawer untouched, but the information moved. Within days, a confidential memo circulated among a select group of industry leaders, developers, architects, city planners. An anonymous tip detailed a breach of proposal confidentiality originating from Bradley and Holt. While my name wasn't attached, the internal details were unmistakable. The firm launched an internal audit, and by the end of the week, Elena's name was scrubbed from their records, discreetly fired, blacklisted. She tried to go freelance. No one returned her calls. Word travels fast in this city, especially when the betrayal is surgical and the evidence airtight. No smear campaign, No social media drama. Just silence where opportunities used to be. The woman who once boasted about commanding rooms with her voice now had nowhere to speak. I kept my focus on the firm. The City Hall project. We got it. Our designs were selected unanimously. The same proposal she tried to sabotage became the very one that elevated my company into the next tier of influence. Internally, I tightened everything. Hired a cybersecurity team. Rebuilt our file protocols from scratch. Promoted from within. Loyalty became the currency of survival. As for me, I didn't celebrate. I thought I would. I thought watching her fall would give me some twisted sense of justice. But justice, as it turns out, is quieter than revenge. It doesn't shout or dance. It just arrives. Cold, precise, final. There were moments, usually late at night, when I'd sit in the living room of my new apartment and remember her laugh. The way she'd sing off-key while brushing her teeth. The way she used to trace circles on the back of my hand while we watched TV. That was the hardest part, knowing that the love I had for her was real, even if she never deserved it. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. She had everything: trust, love, a life partner, and she sold it for short-term gain. Now she had nothing, and I had peace. Not the kind that comes from winning, but the kind that comes from surviving. From not letting betrayal turn me into something bitter. From choosing to rise without stepping down into the mud. Closure didn't come with fireworks, it came with a single moment. One morning, weeks later, I walked past the old coffee shop where she and I used to meet. I saw her sitting alone by the window, staring into a cup that had probably gone cold. She didn't see me. I didn't stop. I just kept walking, hands in my pockets, heart steady. That was the moment I knew. She didn't leave me broken. She left me unbreakable. 6 months later, my life didn't look anything like the one I thought I was building, but in the best possible way. I moved into a new condo overlooking the lake, smaller than the one and I had picked out, but quieter, warmer. I filled it with things that mattered: books, plants, photos of family. No more curated Instagram-ready perfection, just peace. Real, lived in peace. The firm was thriving. We opened a second office across town and landed 2 more public contracts, one of them a community arts center we designed pro bono. That one meant the most to me. It reminded me why I started the business in the first place, not for recognition, but to build something that outlived me. Something honest. I brought on a new head of PRA, woman named Tessa, who came from a non-profit background. She was smart, no nonsense, emotionally grounded, the opposite of everything I'd lost, and exactly what I needed to rebuild what Alina tried to tear down. We didn't talk much about personal lives, just business, and that was fine by me. I wasn't in a rush to fall in love again. The idea of marriage didn't repulse me, but it no longer felt urgent. I learned to be comfortable with my own silence, with dinners for one, with the stillness that used to feel like punishment. Solitude, it turns out, isn't loneliness when you learn to respect yourself. Looking back, I realized I hadn't just survived a broken engagement, I had survived the collapse of an illusion. I used to believe that love, by itself, was enough. That effort guaranteed loyalty, that planning a future with someone meant you both believed in it the same way. But I know better now. I learned that trust isn't given, it's earned, and even then, it's fragile. I learned that betrayal doesn't come with warning signs. Sometimes it walks beside you every day, smiles in your direction, and kisses you goodnight. Most importantly, I learned that healing doesn't come from getting answers. It comes from asking better questions. Not, why did this happen to me? But what did it teach me? Not, what did I lose? But what did I gain from the loss? I gained clarity, I gained strength, and somewhere along the way, I found myself again, not the man I was when I met her. Not even the man she left, but someone wiser, more grounded, and far less willing to tolerate anything that threatens his peace. Every now and then, I still hear about her through whispers at networking events or awkward run-ins from mutual acquaintances. Apparently she moved to a smaller firm, still trying to rebuild her reputation. I don't wish her harm. I don't wish her anything, really. That chapter's closed. People always think closure means confrontation, that you have to scream, demand apologies, or watch the other person suffer. But closure is quieter than that. It's waking up one morning and realizing you haven't thought about them in days. It's walking past the ruins of what could have been and feeling nothing but calm. It's knowing you were broken, but you rebuilt. And this time you used better materials. If there's one thing this journey taught me, it's that strength doesn't always look like power or anger. Sometimes, real strength is quiet. It's waking up every day, putting one foot in front of the other, and choosing not to let someone else's betrayal define your story. Heartbreak is a strange teacher. It strips away the illusions. It makes you face the hard truth that love alone isn't enough. Not without trust, respect, and honesty. And when those pillars crumble, no amount of shared memories can hold up what's already rotted at the foundation. I used to think that losing her would ruin me, that I couldn't bounce back from a betrayal so personal, so public. But what I didn't know then is that every fall, no matter how hard, plants a seed. And sometimes, the strongest version of you grows from the ashes of your worst moment. People will hurt you. Some will leave without explanation. Some will lie with a straight face and smile while they do it. You can't stop that, but you can choose how you respond. You can choose to rebuild, to protect your peace, and to live so fully that their betrayal becomes nothing more than a footnote in your story, not the headline. I don't tell this story for pity. I don't tell it for revenge. I tell it because someone out there is sitting in the aftermath of their own heartbreak, convinced they'll never get through it. But you will, you'll rise, you'll rebuild, and one day you'll look back and realize the person who tried to break you only made you stronger. Resilience isn't a gift. It's a choice. It's made in the quiet moments when no one's watching, and you decide, I will not stay broken. And if you're standing at that crossroads, if you're wondering whether to fight for your dignity or beg for someone's return, choose yourself. Always, because the people who leave you in the dark were never your light to begin with, and once you learn to carry your own fire, you'll never fear the night again.